WandaVision. What the is going on? All right, so I'm done with the spoilers as far as recaps go. Everyone else does them. You don't need to hear a recap from me. You want to hear something different. So what I'm going to be doing is telling you my theories, the best, the worst, the most possible, the least possible, the things that are going through my mind and why I'm at that point of thinking that. I got a whole page of bullet point notes to go through, so I'm going to be trying to fire through this rather quickly because you don't want to be sitting through an hour-long video on this, do you? Well, maybe you do, but I don't want to find out. All right, now, where to start? I think the best place to start is at the beginning. And for this, I mean episode 1. Specifically, what I mean is something I theorized after episodes 1 and 2 dropped. The very first video I did on the subject of WandaVision is still a valid theory. The Salem 7, Agatha's children. And remember, she said that children, you can't control them. Was she just talking about the twins or possibly something else? So there hasn't been much to go on with my theory ever since I first brought it up, which is why I haven't been bringing it up a lot. But now, after seeing the basement, the mystical summoning circle area that Agatha has in the basement, well, witches don't often perform alone, unless you're Baba Yaga. But generally speaking, witches are part of a coven, or coven, depending on where you stand on the pronunciation of that word. But they don't act alone. And even looking at the setup in the basement, it looks like there is space for several other members to form a circle. So again, we're back to the Salem 7, her children. And I believe that not only Agatha was BSing about being under control as she did with Vision, as we saw in the flashback. No, I think everybody, including Norm, is in on this because they are her children. They are the other members of her coven. They are the Salem 7. Senor Scratchy? Well, her son is Nicholas Scratch, and he is a wizard and a sorcerer in his own right, and he has taken part with other entities. He has made treaties with them and worked for them, trying to gain his own power. In the comics, Agatha has a cat, Ebony, a black cat that turns into a puma, or Black Panther, if you will, to protect her. Perhaps Mr. Scratchy, Senor Scratchy, actually is Nicholas Scratch. One other thing I want to point out about Agatha and the flashback showing everything that she did. Everyone is assuming that she is puppeteering Quicksilver. I didn't necessarily take that. I took that as the purple energy signature of Agatha's magic had just, for lack of a better word, teleported him there. And that's what I think. And I also think at the end of episode 7, when he catches Monica in the mid-end scene credits and says Snooper's gonna snoop, his eyes are normal. They don't show any telltale sign of Agatha's magic, the color of the magic effect, none of that. I think he is of his own mind. I think he is snooping as well. And if you think about it, the speed that Quicksilver can run, if he was there to protect and defend Agatha, he could have very easily killed Monica before she even knew what happened. Yes, he could have killed Monica. I understand that this is Monica's origin story for Photon, or Spectrum. Hope they don't go with that name. That's the name of my local cable company, and they suck. But he could have very easily killed her. She is just learning her powers now. She has very little control over them. We don't even know what the cinematic version of her powers are going to be yet. So yes, I maintain if he was mind controlled to protect Agatha, he could have killed her easily. So they're going to be investigating this together. And I think that's going to be very, very important for the next two episodes, that Pietro is on their side. Okay, now the book in the basement. Everyone is saying that is the Darkhold. It could very well be the Darkhold, and yes, it doesn't look like the same Darkhold that they had in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which kind of, sort of, may be part of the continuity. We really don't know how much of it is, if any, canon, especially at that late point in the series. But even if it is, the Darkhold could probably look however it wants. I'm sure that there's enough magic power in there that would allow, in the meta outside world, us viewing the comic book, would allow different artists to take their own rendition of it. And if it's the Darkhold, that means something very, very important. That means that everyone could be wrong about the Mephisto connection. Even I could be wrong about the Nightmare connection, though I think there's still room for that. No, if that is the Darkhold, then that means Chthon. Chthon is Marvel's version of Cthulhu. He is an elder god that ruled on the earth for millions of years, from the moment the earth pretty much cooled and became a physical object, and he ruled for millions of years, became the first great sorcerer supreme, became the first dark sorcerer, and penned the Darkhold. He was chased out of this universe into a side dimension, a side universe. I think it was the winking universe, the twinking universe, something. But he always swore to come back. In fact, when a certain young girl was born, he put his mark upon her to allow her access to chaos energy. And that girl is Wanda Maximoff. That's the way it went down in the comic book. Whoa. An elder god, something Lovecraftian, has worked its way into the MCU. I love this. But if it's not the Darkhold, then what is it? It could be one of the iron-bound books similar to the Necronomicon, which Shum-Gorath, an ancient being who predates time and the universe itself. It could be his book. And if that's the case, this major Doctor Strange villain is behind everything in WandaVision. A nice, tight reason, besides the fact that reality is falling apart. A good, tight reason, mystical in sense, why Doctor Strange now senses something or becomes aware of this and now must enter the picture in episode 9. Now, besides the fact that Shum-Gorath is tied to the pre-universe, lends itself to the fact that Darcy had detected that the signal itself that they were viewing the WandaVision show on was tied directly to the background radiation of the Big Bang itself, signifying it is as old as the universe, the known multiverse even. There are very few beings in the Marvel Universe that predate this. Now, earlier I had mused about Mephisto, but technically he and Nightmare did not exist before the Big Bang. They became beings shortly after the creation of beings, and therefore entered into the world near the beginning. No, there's very few that predate it. The Shum-Gorath does, and so does Galactus, a being from the universe before this one. A universe that got destroyed, and he was rebirthed with the Big Bang here. I don't think this is setting up Galactus. No, the timing isn't right. Not at all, because the Fantastic Four haven't been involved. There hasn't been more space stories to hint towards this, to give us Easter eggs. No. So that leaves the number one guess after this, because the pool to draw from is so small, Shum-Gorath. I know I'm kind of mispronouncing the name. You could berate me in the comments over it. I'm fine. I got thick skin. But if this is him, then that is, well, another tie to Lovecraftian, or at least Lovecraftian-inspired elder god beings creeping into the MCU. Now, that could also be why Nexus was so important. I say important because it was so outstanding. It was so in your face, right? Because whichever it is, Cthon or Shumgrath, at this point, we are dealing with beings that, much like most of Lovecraftian's own mythos, deals with these beings being barred from this universe, not allowed in. They have been kept at bay because of ancient seals and rituals done by our ancestors, as well as other beings older than us. They would need a wormhole, a doorway, a nexus into this world. Again, pointing to the fact that perhaps everyone was wrong about Mephisto, and maybe even I was wrong about Nightmare, but maybe not, because I do have a theory about Nightmare as well, who could still be involved. He could still be innocent. He has been, in the comic books, more of a herald to Shumgarath at times than his dealings with Mephisto. So again, we're looking at the Loki-Thanos scenario here for the opening of Phase 4. We are looking at Nightmare, who has been, this is my theory, been starving to death since the snap. He feeds on the fear and energy that he draws through people in nightmares while they sleep, and literally half of his food was cut for 5 years. Imagine that. Imagine the amount of food you eat every week. Every day. Now cut that in half. And that's what you have to survive on for 5 freaking years. Yeah, Nightmare is starving. Just like the shark claymation with the kid. He needs your magic. He needs your magic. Because by keeping the world asleep inside a hex, where you, as a reward, get your dream. Get your every damn wish. But everyone else is kept asleep until moments you may need them, and then they're puppeted around. But otherwise, they're just kept asleep. So Nightmare can feed and overfeed and overfeed as much as he wants. He will get to gorge after being starved for 5 years. And as a herald of Shumgarath, that would also affect the elder being. Because he himself feeds off of his avatars. Yeah. So that entire Phase 1, 2, and 3, and the build-up and the snap got the attention of a being older and arguably more powerful than our entire universe. Thanks, Thanos. All right, now let's also theorize about the big surprise. So when Paul Bettany says he's been wanting to work with pretty much his entire life, or at least his career life. And I still don't think he means Benedict Cumberbatch. No offense meant towards Benedict. But I don't think it's a secret at all, especially since the Disney Plus trailer for Episode 8 literally showed clips of Doctor Strange, albeit from his own movie. So that's not the surprise. I have said before, I told Tommy V in the video chat we dropped for everyone to view, and I still maintain that I think it's going to be Magneto and or Professor X. Now, whether that means Sir Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick Stewart or McAvoy, I don't know. I would assume the former, because their names are just more powerful in Hollywood and evoke that sense that if you were an actor, especially an actor who shared a home country with these individuals, that you would feel honored to ever get a chance to work with one of them. Now, Al Pacino's name has been dropped also. Apparently, he definitely did have a meeting with Marvel, but that's the only fact there is. Do I think Al Pacino is going to show up as Mephisto like everyone is theorizing? No! No, I do not. He played the devil. He played the devil beautifully. I don't think he's going to come back to play pretty much the same exact character, but in a completely different movie universe and set. No, they could do better bringing Al Pacino into the MCU. So no, I say no on that. I say, like I said before, and I said to Tommy V, what happens when one of your teammates, you are one of the premier, actually in your world, you are the premier organization of superpowered individuals, of super friends, so to speak, thanks to our distinguished competition, as Stan Lee would say. No, but you are part of this team that has gone through the fires of war together and have forged each other into a bond that very few tend to have in life. And then one of them, and as far as Magneto's concerned, the one happens to be your son, gets ripped out of your dimension and stolen? No, there's nothing in any of their characters ever written in the comic books or portrayed in the movies that they would sit back and let this happen. It does not make sense. No, that is their Quicksilver. He got pulled into this world, but his memory got rewritten by Nightmare so that he thinks he is Her Pietro. He thinks that he went through this life, but he didn't. And he knows that secretly deep down. Just like Vision knew something was wrong, and that's why he's snooping. But they are going to look for him. And however the means that the writers decide to express this to us, whether it's Charles using his mental powers, maybe augmented by Cerebro and whatever else, maybe their world's Doctor Strange, and finds where their teammate, his son, Magneto's son, is. And then Magneto uses his power, almost killing himself to do it, to literally rip the electromagnetic field apart, revealing the MCU, coming to get their teammate. Holy shit. Yeah. So I still maintain that. I still maintain that is what the big surprise Hollywood actor or actors are, and it does not have anything to do with Doctor Strange. He is not the secret. He will be there, but he is not the secret. It's going to be the X-Men. All right. So it's no theory that Monica has become Captain Marvel. I'm sorry. I mean Photon. I mean Spectrum. Whoever. Yeah, she got the powers. Now, she got the powers because she went through the field twice. Darcy has gone through the field once. So it can only go one of two routes. Either Darcy and the others in there never go out of the field, never pass through that energy. Because if they do, it looks like, according to theory, they're going to be mutated. And unless they're going to make Darcy a superhero, like Squirrel Girl or something, that's not going to happen. So the field is going to come down. The field itself is going to be no more by the end of the series. It's not going to be that everyone is escaped through it. Like I said, unless they're using this as a way to bring in mutants. Oh, and I have a theory about that too. And that's tied up with how Disney Plus MCU is going to deal with who Agatha Harkness is. In the 616 universe, yeah, she may not always be an angel, but she, more often than not, she has always really been either a good guy or neutral to good sort of character on the side of the heroes and her friends, like the Fantastic Four, like Scarlet Witch. To make her just outright a villainess is, I think, an insult to who the character has always been. But how is Marvel handling this? We don't know. So outside of the fact that she herself is being manipulated, which could be, but I'm not going to delve into that for this. I'll just leave that seed with you. But, not worrying about that. If she is on purpose doing these sort of things, I did have a thought on this. Now, in the comics, Agatha's son is Nicholas Scratch, and the Salem Seven are her grandchildren, not her children. They rarely mention her husband. I think there's been later storylines that did hint or just say that it was Mephisto, but whoever it is that is involved in this, there seems to be someone named Ralph. And the best I could figure out is that pre-Marvel Atlas comic days, there was a comic book that it was a one-shot horror story, and it featured this character named Ralph, who was obsessed with learning magic, learning all the dark and powerful magic he could, putting a lot of fear into his poor wife, Helen. And by the end of the story, Ralph gets what's coming to him, so to speak, and is left lifeless. What if, instead of Helen, it was Agatha? Okay, I'm not so sure about that, but it has run through my mind. It's a theory that might pan out a little bit. Now, in Agatha's comic book history, she was originally, I believe originally it was that she was a Salem witch, but then later they rewrote it so that she actually goes back to the time of Atlantis. She is extremely ancient, and she has used magic to keep herself alive, which so far in the MCU, thanks to Doctor Strange, we know has to do with using dark energy like the Ancient One did. In a sense, this is almost like Agatha's the anti-Ancient One here. But in the comics, during the Salem witch trial, all of her family was and friends, other witches were all put to death. And that's when she left and started a community in hiding so that her and her kind could live there. And, and that's what she was doing moving forward from the colonial times up here in America. Now, what if, all pun intended, no, but seriously, what if Marvel is using one of these two stories? I think it might work best in this sense with the Atlantean one, but it could work with either one. She has been lulled into this, or has thought of this plan herself as a way to rewrite history. That if she can get enough of the world changed in this hex field, then she can literally rewrite what happened. And she could make it so that people that are different, people that are witches, that have magical, mystic, paranormal, supernatural, superhuman powers are not burned at the stake and buried alive and pressed with rocks and hung and killed. So instead of in the comic books, Wanda saying no more mutants, Agatha and whoever's more powerful that she's working with /for get the world completely covered. And instead of no more mutants from Wanda, it is Agatha who says more mutants. No one else is talking about this. Was Wonder Man just a red herring for all of us? Could very well have been. But the only thing I can think of that if all the little nods that they've been releasing in the background about Simon Williams isn't just a wild goose chase, then my thought is that in order to bring Vision to life, Wanda had to put his corpse with someone, meld him with someone. I mean, she does change the clothes, but still keeps them the same. So if she melded Vision with someone, let's say someone that was involved in some high business crimes and was in witness protection at the time, wouldn't be missed because it's, or just a confusion, or for whatever reason, this individual was the one that Wanda chose, melding him with Vision to bring Vision back to life. And that individual, Simon Williams. That's the only way that itself would actually pan out in this series. Now, another thing I want to point out that is probably going to upset a lot of people, not upsetting people that I am saying this, upsetting people because if this happens, you will be upset. By the end of the series, Tommy and Billy are no more. Tommy and Billy are gone. They don't exist. What? But they're going to be part of the Young Avengers, John. And? Okay, so in the comic books, they only existed when Wanda was thinking about them. And when she wasn't thinking about them, if something happened, if there was a problem or an emergency or a crime and she had something to deal with momentarily, they disappeared. And after everything was revealed about Master Pandemonium and Mephisto, and that they were the shards of the demon's soul, the demon's not only soul, just the demon's self, and they ceased to exist. That's what happened in the comics. They're going to cease to exist. Now, this could be for a very good reason, because they could be waiting another, 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years into the next phase, or the end of Phase 4 into Phase 5 for the new Avengers, the Young Avengers, I mean, giving these two actors a few years to grow up, to physically mature, to start looking like teenagers. And this way, you're going to see them disappear, and we won't have to worry about those characters. The writers won't have to be including them in the whole meta storylines for a couple of years until, boom, just like the comic books, they reappear and have their version, so to speak, of their origin and what happened to them. And it's going to be amazing. And the fact that I think that they're going to do this in order to keep the same two actors, the same two children actors who were playing them at 10, to be able to play them at 13, 14, 15, I'm loving that idea. But yeah, we're going to see the boys gone. They're going to be gone. Maybe they're going to be the ultimate sacrifice at the end of the story. I don't know. But as far as where they are right now, I think they're in that book. All right, and I'm going to leave it there. They're in that book. I'm going to leave it right there and just let you think about that one. So those are my theories. Some of the ones, my favorite theories. Some of them, theories that just popped in my head. But the ones that are strongest, that I honestly still think are going to happen, Salem 7, some version of it, some MCU tweaked version of the Salem 7 as part of Agatha's coven is going to make an appearance. I think that Magneto is going to make an appearance, literally coming from his own universe to save Quicksilver. And I think also that the boys are going to be gone for good-ish. What do you think about my theories? But more importantly, what are yours?